Hey y'all, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of One on One with Courtney Starks. I am excited to have you guys with me here today. I am a ball of emotions. So for those of you who know, this is the last week of our series. This has flown by, and I've been a mess. I've literally been a mess, right? You know, to think back 2-3 months ago when I decided to start doing this, I had no idea that it would lead us to this moment. It would lead us here, and I'm just thankful. I'm grateful. You know, a lot of people don't get to do what I do. Don't get the opportunity to, be in this moment, and my heart is full. That's all I can say is my heart is full. You know, these last few episodes are near and dear to me. They're people who I hold close. Today's episode right now is one that through this whole week I've been like, oh my God, challenging myself to step outside of myself and to go back to who I was and how I felt and all those different things was very hard for me in the beginning. But I've come to realize that, in part of growth, in part of learning about yourself and learning to truly love yourself, you have to go through the necessary steps. I posted earlier that a lot of us are really big on, our spiritual and our physical, but we forget about the emotional aspect of things. And that's what kind of delays our journey, right? So I have the opportunity, I have the honor and the pleasure to have met this incredible woman. She's a registered nurse and a grief recovery coach. And we got an opportunity to speak early last week and talk about, I can't even give you the words. I'm just going to bring her in. It's Nola Baylor, everybody.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am exceptional. I'm so glad to be in your presence. I'm glad we are doing this.
Uh,
I'm so serious, Courtney.
I have been rattling my mind all day, emotional wreck, and I'm just like, I have to get on with this young woman. I got to get on with Nola because she's the only person who understands me, who sees me, and all week, Nola, I swear to you, I monitored my behavior in rationalizing everything. I monitor my behavior in not always wanting to meet or needing to be this Courtney, and being Courtney the human. And
now, where did you learn all these wonderful tools from? I love the way you're talking. Because you're talking my love language, buddy. Talk to me.
I learned this from this incredible grief recovery coach, the one, the only, the incomparable Nola Baylor.
You're hyping me up.
But how are you doing? How was your week?
My week was exceptional. I really, when you and I talked a couple weeks back, I knew when I heard your voice, I wanted to have this moment with you. So this entire week, I've been anticipating this moment with you. And of course, our guest. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate you. We see you and we honor you.
Man, I couldn't wait. My team, after I was done with our call, I told my team I was a wreck. I was telling my team, she knows me. She's like the fly on the wall. The fly that we all want to be in certain situations. She was that in my life. And how did she know this? You know what I mean? Who sent her?
Well, Courtney, I didn't know, honestly. When you and I finished our one-on-one, I said, I hope he still has me on. I hope he still has me on. Like, I hope he doesn't hate me. Because what happened, guys? Can I just fill them in?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I had the honor of first speaking with Courtney and being invited to speak to you all. And then when I spoke with Courtney, I said, Courtney, we have to do something different. We have to do something that hasn't been done. I want to work one-on-one with you before I bring you on, because I don't want you to bring me on as a person that you've heard about or the work that you've heard about that I distribute to our community. But I want you to experience this grief recovery platform one-on-one. So Courtney gave me the opportunity. We divulged into his life for almost over 2 hours.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So everything that he's talking about is the result of us having that one-on-one session. So you guys can visit my website. I'm Nola Baylor at nolabaylor.com. Check out my services, book a session with me, but we'll get into all that later. Shameless plug. But come on, man. Let's talk about what you came to talk about. Come on.
Well, right now we want to talk about you, right?
Okay.
For a second, we wanted to talk about you. Just to kind of get into how you got your start, what inspired you to want to become a grief recovery specialist, because that is tough. Not only do you have your own personal thing that you deal with, but you also, in a way, take on the weight of so many other people. So what gave you your start? What inspired you to want to be to go into this field?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I was jolted into this profession by having a broken heart myself and not knowing where to start. I knew that the pieces were broken, but I didn't know how to fix
them. Guys.
Yes, hello everyone. So I started my personal healing journey. It was a 3-year journey, and like when you and I were speaking, you were saying, "What's next? You can't just leave me here."
Yes,
because it is a journey. It's something that we live out day by day. So I had my own experience, and then being a nursing professional, I knew how important my emotional and mental health was as it related to my physical health.
right.
So I just really forced myself into the work, and I'm just really passionate about seeing hearts healed. Because what we're really doing is healing broken places in our heart that we've tried to hide from or that we've negated. That's still they're still there. The pieces are still shattered. But if we do our work, if we take day by day, take an approach day by day to have the courage to face us, the work can be done. The healing can happen. The restoration, the joy can be recovered. Hope can be recovered. And that's pretty much how I found my journey. I was trying to recover from a very traumatic loss back in 2015 when my mother passed away.
And one of the things that I found out, ladies and gentlemen, is that loss isn't always a person. Loss isn't always attached to someone physical. Loss was something that you can lose within yourself. With Miss Nola, I don't even have a lot of words sometimes. I've been trying to rattle my mind on what to say and what to do, but I just want to be open. So Nola Baylor asked me if I wanted to come on and talk about my journey. And I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, I'm the strong one. I'm the strong one. Now I gotta be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? But through a lot of prayer, I realized that I'm a public figure. Everybody seems to know that. But I want to be used as a vessel in this moment, and I want to be able to plant a seed in somebody else's life who may need to hear this story, who probably is facing some of the issues that I face and still face to this very day, with emotional grief and trying to just go through the steps of recovery. So, Ms. Bill, for the first time ever on my show, I'm going to let you take the lead, and then let's just kind of do this.
So, that's amazing. So when Courtney and I had the opportunity, we talked a lot about his journey. And I just really want him, I mean, really for you, Courtney, I just want you to peel back the layers.
Yes.
Just tell them as much as you're comfortable with about the work that you've done. So that's what I really want you to express, is the work that you've done. What did you discover about yourself? Yeah.
So in opening up, and kind of one thing that I had discovered was that, you spend so much time being the strong person. You spend so much time conditioning yourself to believe that everything's okay, that you're good, that you don't need to kind of go back in time. And what we've done, a lot of us, especially as Black men, we build up walls, right? Because we are conditioned to be the providers and the protectors, and we can't cry because crying is weak. You know what I'm saying? Crying is weak. Being emotional is weak. And those are toxic traits that are instilled in us every single day. And one of the things that Nola gave me permission to do was to go back into my life to, where the hurt started, where the thing started. And originally I was like, well, probably losing my mom, losing my dad, that is really hurtful. That's grief, and kind of getting through that. But then I realized as we were peeling back layers even more and kind of telling her my story, she told me, well, let's go back to your kidney being shut down. And at the time, I was just like, uh-oh, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? And realizing that was more hurtful and still is hurtful to this very day, because I still am going through the pain of losing a kidney. So for those of you who don't know and have watched this for the last couple of weeks, I am a kidney survivor.
Yes.
My kidney shut down in 2003. One of the most tumultuous moments in feelings in my entire life. I've always been a sick child. I went through a lot of issues physically all through high school. For those of you who have me here, you've been through high school, you went to high school with me, I was in the hospital so many different times that it became the norm for me. It became the norm that I knew that every year I was going to be in the hospital. And one of the things that Nola helped me to discover was knowing or kind of understanding where that loss started, where that grief started, because you don't think it's grief, or you kind of condition your mind to call it something else.
Yeah.
And not realizing that that's where the grief started. So I happened to meet myself. This is now 2020. I had to meet myself in 2003. And 2003, Courtney, I was a hot mess. You know what I mean? And I was going through a lot emotionally. I was going through a lot spiritually and personally in my life. And going through the point in 2003, let's graduate junior high school and going into high school. And that's the age of discovery, right? You're trying to find yourself. You're young. You're trying to find yourself. You think you're grown, and you're not grown. And then I get sick. So I get sick. I have what we like to call, what the doctors call pseudotumors, which basically where there are imaginary tumors that lie behind your eyes. Literally, they're everything of a migraine. Every symptom, every feeling, every ache, every pain of a migraine, just 10 times worse. And the first time it ever happened to me, we didn't know what was going on. I remember being home, laying in the bed, and my eyes locked. I couldn't move them. They locked. I was throwing up. All these issues that were happening. But then again, I was also struggling with obesity, which is part one to what led to a lot of my issues. Being big, being obese, being unhealthy, not being aware of what was going on with my body, being young, thinking I know everything but didn't know anything. And that's where the loss of my innocence started.
Yeah.
So I got sick year one in high school. I got sick. I was in the hospital for about 2 months, just kind of like going through all that I needed to go through to get back. Having spinal tap after spinal tap after spinal tap, taking all the medications and all these different things. But once again, not realizing that this was now leading to the journey that I was going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And one of the things that, Nola and I discussed was just kind of like going through how I felt, you know what I mean? And meeting myself back then and going through it now, I was confused. I was very confused because I am 14 and I'm going through all these ailments and all these things. And one of the things I told Nola was, all I wanted to do was be a normal kid. Whatever that was, whatever normal was, I wanted to be normal. And I couldn't understand why I was going through these things, right? So this level of uncertainty, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm laying in this bed. I got loads of doctors on me. I'm in ICUs. I don't know what is going on. Me, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to make it out of here. And I'm 14. What do I, my life is, in my mind, my life is over before it even starts.
And Courtney, let's dissect this a little bit,
Yeah.
because you've said some very powerful things. So when we talk about grief, we know that it's a change in a normal pattern, right? Or behavior. So for you, you're this young child and you're having a drastic change in a normal behavior that would typically be experienced by someone who is a child. So you, like you said, your loss that we identified was your childhood.
Yes.
It was your innocence. So now we're looking at grief from a non-traditional standpoint. As we see our Courtney that we all have grown to love, he's still with us. A lot of times we limit grief to death, but we can have experienced grief and just not equate it to our normal day-to-day circumstances. And that's what Courtney is saying here. I was able to step back and say, you know what, even though society tells me to do two things, which is rationalize and intellectualize, and he would have done that by saying, oh, it could have been worse, or look at oh, Johnny boy over here who didn't make it, who had the same condition. Now what are we doing? We're rationalizing and we're intellectualizing. And what does that do ultimately? It minimizes our own personal grief. So it puts us in this space of denying what actually is.
Yes.
So those are all the things that I'm hearing you say that you were able to recover and see just based off of our one-on-one. So yes, I give it back over to you.
So I agree. And it was so hard going back because I rationalize a lot. I intellectualize a lot. I want to give you cookie cutter answers. And Nola picked up on that like this. Like this. Like she knew. And it was one. So to go back to the beginning of what I said to Nola about Courtney the star and Courtney the human was I wanted to be able to fix it. I wanted to be able to say what I needed to say to make the situation okay. When in reality, that's the toxic trait that I'm bringing up, that I'm talking about right now, like wanting to normalize my pain. So now from 2003 to 2007, I battled with these illnesses. I battled with these sicknesses. I battled with obesity. You know, I was going to different programs and, you know, speaking to different doctors, but I became what I like to call the hospital baby, where my whole life became wrapped up and engulfed in being in the hospital, knowing that every year, and in my mind, it became such the norm that if I got sick, that's where I would go. You know what I mean? I felt like I was there more than I was home. But we try to continue this journey, right? You know, I want to be normal. That's just what, you know, in my mind, I want to do this for me. I get out this hospital, I graduate high school, you know, and then we get ready for school. I want to go to college. I want to do all the things, but I take a little time off. You know, I wanted to just kind of explore, get into the workplace, do all these things. For those of you who know, I sing. So I was in this middle of my career. I was singing, I was performing, I was doing all these great things. 2008 comes, I get this opportunity to perform for this major event with all these artists, all these scouts, all these different things, and I lost. And in the midst of me losing, I felt as though my body was like a robot, like it just completely shut down. Right, I could feel the difference in my body after I lost, and I wasn't feeling well. I was sick. You know, I couldn't get out of bed, and I remember on my birthday, my grandmother saying to me, we have to get you back to the hospital. You got to go to the hospital. You're not yourself. This is my birthday. I couldn't even get out the bed. I could literally move. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. Just trying to get up hurt. I remember the day we went to try to get to the hospital, and I couldn't even walk from the building to the hospital. And literally it's 3 blocks. I couldn't walk there because I couldn't breathe. We get to the hospital. I remember everything, like they give me this baby aspirin and everything being white, just turning white. And then when I come to, I'm hearing them talk about kidney failure. You know, these kidneys are failing. But I've conditioned myself to go to these hospitals and come out okay. I conditioned to come to these hospitals and okay, they fixed whatever they had to fix and I was fine. So in my mind, I'm going through this again and I'm like, okay, well, they fixed this before, they're going to fix this again, not realizing that I want to get this, so I'll make sure I get all the words that I want to say that I've said before.
Yeah, take your time.
I'm in this hospital now once again for 2 months. I'm in this hospital. I was in ICU. This time I went from pediatric to an adult, right? So that was another switch that I had to deal with. That I was dealing with people that were my age range before, and then right after I switched over, and everybody is older than me, much older than me, but are going through these issues. So I'm in ICU. They're doing this thing where they're like taking my blood. I don't know what this is, but they're cleaning my blood and doing all these things, giving me transfusions, all these things. And I remember this being once again in a state of uncertainty, in a state of confusion, because I did not know what was going on. I wanted to find out information, and they were feeding it to me. But once again, I'm 19. So you're saying to me a bunch of different words, and I'm just looking at you like, okay, fix it. Once again, fix it. That's all I want. You're saying this to me. I want to know what's going on, but the underlying issue is I want you to fix it. Period.
Yeah.
I remember getting out the hospital and the doctor saying to us, well, he has to go to this center and have these, this dialysis. And I'm just like, what is that? How many times I gotta do this, and when is it over? And them kind of saying to me, this is what you have to do, and not getting it, and saying to myself, well, this will be done. It's gonna be done. It's gonna be done. I'll go a day or two, and then I'll be done. And I remember going to the center. I'm in there with a bunch of people that I don't know these people. I'm going through whatever. And I remember talking to the doctor and saying to the doctor, okay, so I was here 3 days. When is this over? And him like saying to me, and this time it registering that you're going to be doing this for life.
Wow.
And I remember once again, my body just shutting down, like emotionally and physically and spiritually, everything kind of cut off. And I went into this state of depression. I was angry. I had a sense of rage. I was confused. And more importantly, this loss of identity, this loss of self. Like everything that I had planned for my life was gone. The music career, going to go to school, all these different things were just kind of like taken away from me. Everything that I had planned for my life was gone. Mm-hmm. So I go through this process and I'm mad. And I remember I told Nola this. I'm mad at the world. I'm mad at my grandmother. I'm mad at God. I'm mad at everybody. And instead of me allowing people inside, I pushed everybody away. I just wanted to be by my lonesome. I didn't want a pity party. I didn't want anybody telling me that they're praying for me or saying for me, which I call empty words of emotion, to make me feel better. I didn't want it. I just wanted to be left alone. But I knew that, I knew that it was going to be a battle that I had to face. And I wasn't ready. I was hurt. I was angry. And I took on a really toxic lifestyle because I didn't know. I didn't know, but I knew that I didn't want to be labeled as the sick kid anymore. You know what I mean? And I didn't want nobody to really know my business. So for a year, I was in this, if you ever seen the movie, we talk about the sunken place. I was there, and I remember going to church, and I remember somebody forced me to go to church and forced me to go to this retreat. And I get to this retreat, and I remember hearing this song, and I'm like, you know what, God, if this is what you're trying to say to me, then I'm going to receive it. I'm going to do what you asked me to do, and I'm going to just live. I can't let this defeat me. I have to find a way to take control back over the situation. So if you guys are listening to some of these patterns, I have an issue with control, and I say this all the time, and I'm open to it now. But Nola knows before I couldn't label this, but I have issue with control. So once again, I get the opportunity to take back over my life, right? And from 2008 all the way to 2013, I'm living this life. It's toxic. And I'm filling myself with all of these empty ideologies of what is good for Courtney. I'm out, I'm drinking, I'm having a good time. I'm normal, right? I'm normal. I'm going through my 20s, and I refuse to allow dialysis to stop me from living the life that I want for myself. I start Courtney's Corner, I end Courtney's Corner. I just couldn't do it, but I knew that I wanted to live my life. And I did that. 2013 comes, and my dad dies. And I remember just laying on being on the machine and getting a bunch of different calls, right? Getting a bunch of different calls from the hospital. For those of you who know, who are really close to me, me and my dad were never really that close. We were never really, I didn't really have the relationship with him that I wanted. That closeness that I wanted with my dad, that anybody would want with their dad, to have that connection, to have that bond, that, to do man things and learn how to, what it means to be a man. I didn't get the opportunity to do that with him. And I remember them calling me, and I remember them telling me, "You got to get to the hospital. Your dad's in the hospital." Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know he was going. They're not telling you this over the phone. And get to the hospital, because now I'm like, what did he do now? What did he do now? How did he get sick now? And now, fact that they're calling me. There's 2 children, but they're calling me. I get to the hospital. I'm asking about him, and everybody's just running around. So I knew something was wrong. I remember. This picture, it's always going to be stuck in the back of my mind. I remember them bringing me to the triage and pulling the white sheet over, and there's my dad, dead. And I did not know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I remember once again being numb, being angry, feeling that empty feeling that I had when I first, got sick, feeling that again, feeling empty, blaming myself for a lot that I could have done. You know what I mean? Just going back and forth, but then being the only person there was very, very hard. You know what I mean? It was very hard. And just feeling this sense of, damn, like all of the other stuff was unnecessary. Why couldn't we just work on us? You know what I mean? And feeling, once again, alone.
Can we talk about that one too? Can we unload that, Courtney?
Yeah,
because
sure.
The one thing I remember when you and I were one-on-one, again, we're talking about grief causing those conflicting feelings. Because now there's not just a change, but now you have a physical relationship that has been altered by death.
Yes.
So there was some other losses in there I want for you to revisit and re-identify as it related to your dad, because there were some expectations that you had he wasn't able to fill for whatever reason. So do you remember what you labeled those losses?
I'm just gonna read back. I remember I'm labeling, I think it's going through the feelings again, right? I remember being, like I said, feeling empty, numb, angry, but more importantly, like, when I say blaming myself, a lot of it was, I wanted my dad to be somebody that I could connect with. We weren't close. We were not close. You know what I mean?
So there was this sense of identity, being able to identify with your father, any things that you all had in common, just to have that normal son-father relationship. You were at a loss of that, even when he was here with us on earth. So there's almost, I think, if I remember correctly, maybe a sense of abandonment.
Yeah.
That was you felt abandoned, and then just having the loss of the full father figure. One for you. So yeah.
Yeah, and like Nola was saying, like, and feeling like, I blame myself for, a lot of it, because I'm like, damn, what, as a son, even though he wasn't the perfect father, I wasn't the perfect son. You know what I mean? And kind of dealing with that head on, and saying to myself, what could I have done? And hurting, because putting my dad in the ground was the hardest thing I ever had to do, knowing that we didn't reconcile. You know what I'm saying? And even though I'm saying to myself, Dad, I'm sorry. Dad, I'm sorry. Dad, I'm so sorry for not being the son that you could have maybe wanted. You know what I mean? And not seeing it from the other side. You know what I'm saying? And like, just hurting, because I was so wanting what I wanted, and blaming him for not being the dad that I wanted in my life. But I didn't take the steps to try to fix it, and try to make it work, or just tell him how I felt, and having that conversation. And there was plenty of times where I could have, but it became such a financial relationship that for me, you gave me some money, I was on my way. And I didn't want to, you know what I mean? I didn't want to do it. And I went through that. But once again, I built that wall up. I'm okay. I'm good. I'll
Yeah.
be okay. My dad, once again, my dad's in a better place.
Mm-hmm.
All those things that, you tell yourself or people tell you, it was his time. Things of that nature that irks me. Me personally, it drives me insane. But we'll get to
So
that
what
later.
can we say instead of he's in a better place? Like, what would be the appropriate thing to say? Or
I I I don't know. For me, I think even with my acts of the 5 acts of love, I think you were saying that love languages. For me, it's not so much word, but more so actions. So I
that's
don't
right.
want I don't want you to say anything.
That's right.
Just be there. Just
And
be
that for
there.
some people is enough. And I'm glad you said that. Don't say anything. Because sometimes we think that the silence is awkward, but sometimes the silence within itself is its own healing property because the physical person is there and they're providing comfort just with their presence. A lot of times you hear people say things like, don't feel bad.
Hmm.
But instead of saying, don't feel bad, what if we said, this must be tough?
Right.
Because now I'm not telling you how to feel or I'm not assigning any emotion, but I'm allowing you to have whatever emotion you may have by just saying, this must be tough. The
Hmm.
other thing that I hate when people say, when I hate to hear people say, and I've been guilty of saying the same thing,
Hmm.
I know how you feel.
Right.
Who in that moment could ever think that someone else understands how they feel? But what if I said, I can only imagine how,
Hmm.
well, which would be more therapeutic to you, Courtney? Or
Um,
I can't imagine how you feel. Like, which one? Do you want to hear that versus, I know how you feel because my so-and-so died, da, 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 da.
yeah, like
Like, which would you rather hear?
um, I think for me it would be like I can only
If
imagine,
you
or
are
I
a
can't.
worse person, yeah.
Right. I can only imagine, or I can't imagine. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
would rather that than you say, because I've heard this. I know how you feel, or I've been there. No, you have
Oh,
not. You have not been there. And even
you
and
have
even
not.
and even if you've lost someone, the differences are what we're going through are separate. You know what I mean? You can never be able to match how we feel. And why would you? Why do you feel like it's
And
okay?
it does feel like a matching game, doesn't it? It's
Yes,
almost like
because
your grief feels minimized by that
right.
statement.
Because as soon as you bring to me, oh yeah, because I lost my so and so, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm hanging
Now it
up.
becomes about them, right?
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And I was hearing it all when my dad died. I heard every empty sentiment. I'm here. Oh, I'm here if you need anything. And then when you need something, and for me, I don't need much. I take care of myself. But like just for having people there, to have somebody there. Like I said before, I am a man of like I want you to show me how you feel. Don't tell me because I can hear this all day. I was this guy, so I know. You know what I mean? Like I hear this all day, but if you can't put those feet to work for me or whatever, then we have nothing to talk about. So I dealt
So
with
what are
that.
we saying, guys? We're saying don't belittle little your grief, but as well, don't belittle someone else's grief.
Yes, yes, it is not okay.
It's not.
Um, and dealing with this in the midst of doing all these other things, right? So I'm still in dialysis, y'all. I'm still going to dialysis.
How
I'm
old are you at this point, Courtney?
so at this point I am now 24.
Okay,
20,
so
no.
you're
I just turned 24. Right. My dad died. No, I'm lying. My dad died when I was 23. He died a week before my birthday. I just turned 24 that next week. So
Can I say something about your dad, the factor
yeah.
with your father? And I really appreciate you trusting us with your story
Hmm.
because this really takes courage. And this is what healing is about. It's about being able to own where we've been so we can get to the other side, which is healing.
Yes.
You said something that's so quintessential, which was, I was so angry at my father. I know you saw a couple weeks ago where we talked about the flow of grief. But
Hmm.
once you get past that anger stage, you move into facing the loss. And
Yes.
facing the loss is about saying, in your situation would have been about saying, my father hasn't been here for me. I would have liked that he had been here for me and we had this
Hmm.
father-son bond, but that's just not my reality. So at that
Right.
point, you would have been facing the loss. The next step would have been forgiveness. Why am I talking about forgiveness? Because when we do not forgive, it robs us of time. We are
Mm.
so busy. It makes us busy trying to punish that other person for not living up to our expectations of the person we thought they should be in the relationship. So like you said, and I think I heard you saying that in your story, you realized you lost time with your dad because you were just so angry because forgiveness and facing the loss had not happened. So I
Yes.
just want to just say to the audience, please, I really beckon you to forgive, not for their sake, but for your sake. Because when we forgive, we're less likely to live with regret. Because
Mm.
that unforgiveness, that too is energy. We're establishing that energy and, not calling because they didn't call, or not going by because they haven't gone by. So you have this whole offense. What is it doing? It is robbing us of time. It tries to rob us of the ability to make memories and just maximize what it is that we do have. So I
Yeah.
just want to pull out the importance of forgiveness.
And it's so good because it took me a while, and I want to say it wasn't until mid that year that
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation of just forgiving my dad and forgiving myself
Yes.
for, you know what I'm saying, for
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that I blame myself for,
Oh,
and just kind of going through that, and it's still an everyday battle. You know what I mean? It's still fresh, even though it's been 7 years. It's
oh
still
yeah.
fresh. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? And it doesn't get easier. People always say, "Oh yeah, in time it'll get easy." It never gets easier. You just learn to deal with it after a while, and that's where you build up
Who
these
told you
walls.
that it would get easier with time?
Everybody always wants to, be like, a preacher or a motivational speaker, and that's not your calling. It's not your calling. So, and a lot of people will say, yeah, it'll get easier with time. No, first of all, who died and gave you this degree? Because it wasn't nobody around here, but I had to learn to deal with this, how it felt comfortable for me. And for
That's right.
me, one of the biggest issues was the fact that I never said I'm sorry. He never got opportunity to, even if he wanted to say it. You know what I'm saying? So just having that conversation with him and praying about it, and just saying, you know what, I'm gonna let God allow me to take this journey and take this time. And every year it's hard. Every year it's hard, but it goes. We go in phases. There's some years I'm okay, and there's some years I'm just like, please, Lord, be my strength.
Yeah.
But I make it through the year. We make it through the year. This is the year I get my first apartment. I'm back in school. I'm doing all these things. I started a new job. I'm managing a restaurant. I'm doing all these things. 2014 comes. I'm living my life, y'all. I'm doing everything that I got to do. I am enjoying Courtney. I get a phone call. This is the phone call that I've been waiting for these entire few years. I won't say my entire life because I ain't lived my entire life here. But these entire few years now, I'm on the list. I'm waiting. I get the call.
Mm-hmm.
I am excited. I am ecstatic. I write on Facebook. I'm telling everybody. I'm just like, I am so hyped. I leave the job. I go home. I get clothes. I come back. I go back out. I do all these different things because it is time. I am not doing this again. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I get to this place. They're doing all these preps and all these things and getting me ready. And I remember them taking an X-ray. I remember them doing all these things to my body, making sure my heart is okay. I get to the table, y'all. I get to the table, and right before they're about to inject me with the propofol to put you out for the surgery, the doctor runs in and he's like, "No,
Oh.
no, he can't. He can't get this kidney." And I'm laying on this table because I'm like, this is for me out of a damn movie. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying to me? And he's like, no, 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 no. And you have a heart muscle issue. Your heart is weakened due to dialysis, and unfortunately, you can't get it. And I remember just going back to stage one of how I felt when my kidney first shut down. Angry, this sense of identity was once again lost, rage, mad at everybody, mad at God. Because I'm saying to myself, God, how could you do this to me? I have done any and everything that I could possibly do to make it here. Nola and I kind of just established what this also was like, and the doctor kind of coming in and bursting in the room and telling me, no, I can't have this, was a form of rejection and labeling it. Because I didn't know what to call it at the time. I didn't know what to call it last week until we kind of discovered in telling the story that the rejection hurt. The rejection is what angered me, and knowing that, I have gone through these things and been rejected and being told no and losing my dad and all these things and kind of like all these things that I wanted for my life not coming to fruition, and and dealing with this, and the life that I wanted for myself was no longer my own. You know what I mean? Saying, God, this is the life that I want, and God saying, this is the life that I want for you. So once again, feeling the rejection all over again. And I remember just being numb and angry and hurt and betrayed. Yeah. And for another year, I went into this major rejection. Major depression. And I just couldn't understand. I remember once again, everybody's empty. Oh, it wasn't your time. What the hell does this mean? Stop talking to me. Stop talking to me. Stop. Because I can't take it anymore. I can't. And I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this anymore. You get to thankfully I was, I'm not a suicidal person, but in that moment, I'm just like, I cannot live like this. I can't. It's just, it's not within me. I don't have the strength to get through this. And I had to find it. And where did I find it? I went through this once again, the same journey, the same repeat of going back to God and just saying, God, what's up? And a lot of times I realize, we make up like a strategized conversation to God. Like he doesn't really know who we are. He doesn't really know our story. He didn't really write the story. And in that moment, like, you know what? I have to be honest and tell him how I feel and speak from my heart and not from my head. Speak from my heart and tell him how I feel. But he already knows. He is kind of waiting for me to be honest and open.
Yes.
And in that moment, I came to God, and I remember just dropping to my knees and saying, God, what the hell? Just crying and bawling my eyes out and telling him, like, what did I do so wrong that you could allow me to go through this? What did I do? I've done nothing. I'm a simple kid, just trying to live my life and live my dreams. Why are you taking it away from me? And having this conversation, and once I opened myself up and I was vulnerable, was I able to then start this new journey on my life. God had to slowly build me back up, but he also had to show me that I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. I was doing the things that I wanted to do. And once I deciphered the difference, I realized that I wasn't ready for this, Kenny. I wasn't ready for this, Kenny. And it would be a disservice to put that in my body and me not even make it out the hospital because I was toxic. I was drinking. I was out doing all the. I wouldn't get too deep into those words, but everything that I could possibly be, you could possibly do, I was doing it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm out. I'm sexually active out the wazoo. I'm doing everything that I knew was wrong, but was making an excuse for being right because I was young and I'll be okay. And it wasn't until that moment where I was like, okay, God, I'm going to follow this. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to take a chance. I trust you a little bit. I have faith in you, just this much. And I just went on this journey with him. I went on this journey, and I realized going through the journey that I still had a lot of things in me that was broken, that needed to take this time and work on and build on. I remember in 2015, my brother decided he wanted to go see my mom and my dad. I remember getting to the gravesite, and I don't know what it was, but to give you a little backstory, my mom was having me. She did drugs and all these different things. She was addicted She was an addict, you know, in her own way, and having me in the midst of that. So she originally gave me up for the first year. She gave me up to, I guess, a friend of hers to adopt me for a little bit for a year. And then when she had my brother, she got me back. But already the damage had already been done.
Mm-hmm.
My mom died when I was 5. She had a massive heart attack. I'm more than likely due to the complications of what she had to do, you know. And I remember getting to the gravesite and just going off, and like blaming her for everything that has happened in my life. Being upset with the fact that you left me. You left me here. You know what I'm saying? You left me here, and that longing for a mother's love was gone. This sense of identity. I was telling Nola, everybody and every people who are watching, who watch later, always tells me, you look like your mother. You look like your mother. And I remember saying to myself, who is this woman? Who is this woman you're telling me about? You know, I know she may be great. You guys all love her, even in the midst of her issues, but I can't relate to this lady. I don't know her. I don't know this person. All I do know is that this lady right here died, and I'm bearing the brunt of all the things that she did wrong in her life. And that's how I felt. That's how I felt. You know, I felt like I was stuck in this bubble of her mistakes, and I'm fighting to get out, and I can't. And every time I feel like I pop the bubble, it just resurfaces like it's another, like it's psych. Here we go. You know what I mean? And having that and releasing that anger and letting her know that I'm hurt, that I'm broken, that I needed you. I needed Dad. I love my grandmother to death, and she's been my rock through this whole thing. But to have a mother's love is different. To have a dad's love is different. And to not be able to get any of it, not even a little bit, or to something that I can remember, you know, I don't remember. You know what I'm saying? Even if she was a loving mother, I don't remember it. I was too young to remember who she was in my life. I don't know. You know, and having to go through that, just kind of brought on a lot of blame, a lot of anger, but it also gave me a lot of release. You know, Nolan talked about a lot about forgiveness. And one of the things, and the hardest thing I had to do was forgive somebody that I don't even know. I didn't know her, but I had to forgive her for me. Mm-hmm. I had to forgive her so that I can get to the next phase of my life, right? I couldn't hold on to what she did back then. She didn't know any better. Or if she did know any better, she still didn't know any better. You know what I mean? And she did whatever she did. And here we are right now, right? I am able to talk to my mom even at her gravesite. And I remember just feeling such a big release. I remember just saying to myself, you know what, God, if this was how you wanted me to amplify my journey, okay. 2017 comes. I remember getting a call, and this time it was a lot different. I'm like, I'm not setting expectations on this call, but I'm going to go. I'm going to trust you, God. We're going to go. They do the same thing again. They prep me. They do all these things. I remember before they wheeled me in, I'm bawling. I'm holding my grandmother because I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And at first I thought it was because I was scared of getting the kidney. I was scared of them telling me, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And I remember my grandmother saying, just trust God. Just go. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I go. And in everything they're saying to me, I'm not taking it with a grain of salt because I'm scared. I'm like, I can't deal with this again. I can't deal with this again. But I remember them saying, count to 3. And I counted to 3. And when I opened my eyes again, I had this kidney. So I told Nola that I was starting this journey, right? I had started a new journey, this second chance, this new life. And Nola was just like, hold up, you know? And this is kind of where I talked about like grief coming in different forms. And she was like, so you went through all of this, you get this kidney, I mean, you're okay? You're all right? So I had to go back. Because even though it's been 3-4 years since I had my kidney, I had to go back to that moment again and say to myself, how did I feel in that moment? Like, what grief was I going through in that moment? And to be honest with you guys, I know a lot of you see my post about thanking God and all of that good stuff, but to be honest, I'm going to be really, really honest. The level of uncertainty and confusion engulfed me again. It was there. And the reason why it was there is because when you go to dialysis, you deal with people who show you nothing but love. Mm-hmm. They wrap their arms around you and they're praying for you, they protect you. I was the youngest person at the center. The youngest. So imagine me being the baby and like I got mothers and fathers, all the things that I was looking for in my maternal and paternal parents, I got at this center. So leaving this center was hard. And for them, they're able to detach because that's their job. That's their condition. But for me, I'm like, no, I'm not ready to leave you guys. I don't want to leave you guys. Like, this is home. This has become home. So once again now, this sense of abandonment, this sense of, okay, I'm by myself again. I'm by myself again, doing this again. Even though it's different, I'm doing this again. And it's hard. It's not easy, and living every day since being scared for my kids to reject on me, being scared that there's going to be another issue in my life that's going to stop everything that I'm doing so far and be like, no, come back. We got to deal with this. This is what's going on right now. And, even though, you're not supposed to live in fear and live in that type of world, I'm human, guys. I'm human. And every single day, I'm scared that there's something out there lurking to be like, okay, fun's over. Here comes the bubble. You know what I mean? And even though I'm a prayer warrior, I can pray you guys up and down a line of things. You know what I'm saying? I can do it all. I can speak to you and hopefully be a vessel. I've used this platform to do so much and be so many people. But then when I come home, I'm by myself. I'm by myself in my own thoughts, in my own head, and realizing that at the end of the day, I can't control my life. And that was one of the things that I realized I had to let go. And it's the start of a long journey. But I realized, even looking back, I always wanted to have control over my life. I always wanted to be in control of every situation. And it wasn't until last week that I realized I can't control anything. Even when it comes to this has all been a blessing. This has all been given to me. This has all been allowed. But I can't control anything. And the journey starts today. The journey starts now. I want to do a part 2 to this. I know if that's okay with you, Nola, because I know it's going to cut off soon. And I don't want to rush through this in the next 4 minutes. So if it's okay with you, I want to bring you back one right after this, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, because it's going to cut off, guys, and I want to keep this going. And so this is what I'm going to do. If it's okay with you, Nola, I want to get to some of these questions, and then I want us to come back. So King Sylvie says, as a loved one or family member of someone going through something, I'm sorry, I can't really get to I'm trying to read the whole thing. Give me 1 second, because it's not showing me the whole question. As a loved one or family member of someone going through something, how do you deal with that grief and sometimes the guilt of you being healed? Does that make any sense to you?
What do you think they're saying or asking?
I guess, hold on, because I don't want to assume, but I think what she's probably asking is, how do you kind of deal with the grief? I think basically she's kind of matching you know, a lot of the story, she can relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's also asking is, you know, when you go through the healing process, and everybody that's along this journey with you is
Mm-hmm.
not reached that point, you know, and that guilt of, dang, I'm I'm starting to go through this emotional journey to healing, and my brothers and my sisters have not yet made it here, you know, and dealing with that guilt.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so I think that's what she's asking me.
Yeah, I think I would start with asking myself, why do I feel the guilt? That's where I would start, by asking myself, because now guilt, you're carrying a emotional pain, and that can cause you grief. Because remember, grief is about a conflict in emotions. Now you're saying, hey, I'm healed, I'm feeling better, I have more mental clarity, I'm more energized and hopeful about life. But maybe, my friend isn't. So now you're in a
Mm,
conflict. Even though you're in a good space, you're still in a grief space. So
yeah,
then asking yourself, what is it that I wish was more different or better? That is a model that I use. What is it that you feel like your friend needs to know more about as it relates to grief?
mm,
Maybe you can be the catalyst for creating a different scenario or outlook on the life that they are having, or have a conversation. It's just really what Courtney and I did. He's given me way too much credit, but we sat down, we had a conversation, and I told my story, and I helped him find losses in his. So really it's about being an extension of that compassion, and really captivating and capturing the fact that recovery is possible. So I
right,
think in that scenario, I think you're really meant to be a sign and a beacon of hope, letting people that know that they can recover from their emotional pain.
yeah,
So that's what I would encourage you to do, is just be an extension of that compassion, and share your story, and share whatever tools you may have utilized to
good.
overcome.
Okay, guys, this is going about to cut off. So I want to be able to continue the conversation with Miss Nola and have you guys come back. So please don't go nowhere. I'm about to come right back on, and me and Miss Nola are going to continue this because we got a lot to talk about still. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.